Little rainbow. Yeah, look at that. Oh, that's a king salmon. Oh, look at that. Now that's what's up. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here back at the lake and trying to catch some fish. So from my last video, one of my friends, who's always also a subscriber, commented that I should do a tutorial video on how to catch fish. He's not a frequent fisherman, so he kind of wanted to know what I use. So today, before I set out, I'm going to go over my equipment and my approach to catching trout. So first, to start off, my fishing pole is this. It's an ultralight rod with a spinning reel. This is an Akuma spinning wheel, and I like the ultralight just because, you know, it's light, and it also depends on what kind of fish you're going after. Obviously, the bigger the fish, you want a heavier rod and a stronger rod. So essentially, what I have here on the reel is a 10-pound test line, which is a braided fishing line, which is a lot stronger because I think it's 3 to 5 fibers that are braided into a fishing line, and has a 10-pound test limit to it. So what the braid does, it makes it easier for me to cast if I'm going to cast, if I'm fishing offshore or whatnot. But then with that braid, that's the main line, I have about 20 feet of fluorocarbon, which is sort of this clear fishing line that essentially disappears once it hits the water, so that the fish can't see the fishing line. Those fish are pretty smart. So on that braided line, what I have is I'll give you a close-up. Is this little slider. So this thing slides back and forth. It's got a little hook on it, so I put anywhere from 1 to 3 ounce cannonball weight. Has a little bead which will stop it, and I put some swivels in here. This is actually called a trolling swivel because I'm trolling. So that's essentially tied about 2 feet to a dodger. You notice this dodger is silver. It's got a little reflective material, and it's not perfectly straight. It has a little bend on it, sort of like a skateboard. So what this does is when you pull the line, it kind of swerves back and forth so that it actually gives you a little action. And then that's tied with a little swivel to my spoon. This one is that tiger print with a hook on it. So the spoon actually has an action too. It actually kind of spins. So the combination of this dodger going back and forth and this thing spinning is the action that you're looking for when you pull. So what this dodger does, not only does it move the line, but it also creates a little bit of vibration, so that fish actually will feel that vibration. They'll see that flash, they'll come and take a look, just like a dog, right? Something odd's in the water, they come and look, they hear it. Sometimes they say that this vibration feels or sounds like other fish feeding, and then they take a look at the dodger, and then they realize, hey, something's behind that dodger. I wonder what that is. So they'll go ahead and investigate. And just like a dog, they don't have paws, but they'll investigate with their mouth, right? So as soon as they try to figure out what that is, they'll hit it, and then they'll realize, oh, that's not food. But then it's too late because it's got this hook, and they're hooked. That's sort of the idea behind my Dodgers and my spoon. So these Dodgers actually come in multiple sizes and shape. I think I have an extra one here that I can show you guys. I thought I did. Maybe I left it at home. Typically those come in different sizes and different color, different shapes, which allows it to have different action on the lure that you're using. So that's sort of a simple description of my fishing gear. I'm going to put this away, get ready to launch. Oh, it's hooked on my So here, my cannonball weight. This is 3 ounces. And I will explain the idea behind the cannonball. Obviously, it's just a weight to allow me to get down to a certain depth. So I'm always trying to catch trout. They're fun to catch, and also they're tasty to eat. So most trout, if you investigate a little, like cold water. So what I use, I also have this little Garmin. Now this little Garmin is GPS. It's got sonar. It's allowed me to kind of figure out where the fish are. And the important thing is this also gives you depth of the water that you're on. It also has a temperature gauge, so it gives you a temperature of the water, mostly at the surface, and also allows me to kind of map where I go. But more importantly, it's the depth and also the speed. It is a GPS, so it shows me how fast the boat is moving. So, unlike other fishing, this is the other pole with the same setup. If you're fishing from the shore, you probably won't need a Dodger because it's hard to cast the line. This won't go very far, so you essentially have to remove this. You can still use a spoon and a weight, but you have to remove the Dodger because it's much harder to cast with the Dodger on. So if you're fishing from the shore or the pier, you just cast it out, and then you have to give it action to the spoon, which means you have to reel it back so that it's coming back. If it's not moving, it's just gonna sink and the fish aren't gonna be interested. So if you pull on it, it kind of spins, so the fish will look at that and say, hey, what is that? Is that a bait fish? I'm gonna go check it out. That's the concept. Since I have a boat, so I like to troll because you can actually cover more water, go to different places. You let the boat do the work by essentially dragging the line to wherever you want to go. So with this one, we're going to use a 3-ounce weight today. See if I go a little deeper. don't know if you can hear it. So I have a little sensor here. Every time there's a fish underneath, you know, fish have a air bladder. So the sonar shoots it out, and the sonar is actually on my trolling motor at the bottom. So it sends out a signal. It reflects to the bottom, comes back up. That sonar signal comes back up, and it shows me what the depth of the lake is. But also it reflects off of fish, because fish have air bladders. Those will reflect the sonars, it'll come back. And every time it does that, it does kind of beep depending on the size of the fish. So currently there's some fish here in about 15 feet of water, which is kind of shallow, and they're underneath the boat. So this allows me to, you know, sort of figure out where the fish are, and then I can adjust the depth. So how far do I go down? So like I said, I have these 2 fishing rods with 3-ounce weights on it, and once I cast them up, they're gonna sink to the bottom. If I'm not moving, the lines are just gonna sink to the bottom, right? And then if it hits bottom, you know that if this lake is 50 feet deep, it hits bottom, hey, it's 50 feet. Simple. But if you're moving, fishermen actually with a big boat have what's an equipment called a downrigger. And essentially it's a miniature crane with a, I don't know, 5 pound, 3 to 5 pound, 10 pound weight on it. That's on a steel cable. So essentially you have it on the side of your boat, and if you just drop that line, it has a meter in it. It has a counter so that you can drop it to, let's say, you know, 20 feet. And then it'll be at the depth of 20 feet. So at that 20 feet, what you do is you actually attach your line to that weight at the bottom, and it has a clip that clips onto that steel cable, so that the downrigger allows you to reach a certain depth. And once you reach that depth, you start moving, and the fish are attracted to your dodger and your lure. They come and investigate, and it gets hooked. Once it gets hooked, you have to snap it off, so that that clip allows you to snap off the fishing line, so that you're free and you can reel in your catch. So once you're done with that catch, you have to go back and reclip and allow that fishing line to go back to the depth. So now I have an inflatable boat, super lightweight. There's no room for me to have a downrigger. So what do? So I try to troll without a downrigger. The way I do that is by using some trigonometry, okay? So it's a 90-degree angle. So essentially when you put your fishing line out and you start moving, it's gonna drag, it's gonna create this angle, right? So if you think about that angle, the depth is essentially straight down, 90 degrees to it, and the distance from the boat to that line or the weight is another straight. So you have this 90-degree angle. So if you maintain about a 45-degree angle, it's not always possible, right? Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 60. So if you try to maintain a 45-degree angle, essentially the amount of line that you lead out, if you multiply it by 0.7, which is sine of that angle, sine or cosine of that angle, 45 degree is like 0.7. So if you multiply the amount of line that you lead out by 0.7, it kind of gives you the depth. And that's how I do it. So if I'm out, you know, I want my line to be 50 feet. So I usually measure out about 70 feet of line, multiply that by 7, 49, it's close to 50. So if I want to go a little deeper, I give out 80 feet of line. So that's 56, right? So approximately, it's going to be around 50 feet, depending on how I maintain that angle. That angle is maintained, so the faster I go, less angle I have. The slower I go, the angle is going to come up. It'll be 45 or maybe even 60. So that's how I control the depth. It's not an exact science, but there is some reason behind my method. And essentially, that's how I do it. So let's go out to the water, deeper water here. Currently, the the water temperature here is about 57 degrees, and we're at a depth of about 42 feet. So there are fish about 10 or 50 feet swimming around, but also I don't want my line to get snagged. So I'm going to go to a little deeper water and see if all this explanation works. Well, I know it works because I've been catching fish. And also, this is a shout out to my friend Shrubin. What's up, Shrubin? Going to a deeper part. So the depth is 72. Water temperature is about 57.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And I am going approximately about 2.4 miles per hour. I haven't put any of the lines yet. So usually I get to about 75 feet. Once I clear these buoys, I start letting out some line. So I am going about, I'm going to slow down. So it's about 2 miles an hour. So another calculation that I do, that I know from my reel to my first guy, is about 2 feet, right? There's one, there's about 2 feet. So I don't have a counter. You can buy fishing poles with a line counter that'll teach you how much line that you're going out. But you know, I like to do it old school. So now actually we're depth is about 64 feet. I'm gonna see if I can go into a little deeper water before I start letting out line, because also if I let out, you know, 70 or 80 feet of line and there's structure there, even though it's about, you know, 70 feet deep, if there's structures, brush, trees, branches or whatnot, it gets caught, and I don't want to have to lose my lure and my my dodger. So essentially that's it. That's how I do it. I know you may not be able to see it on camera, but when I put this line down just a little bit and it starts to sing, and I can actually see the dodger going back and forth, and the spoon actually kind of has a back and forth, sometimes spinning, a little erratic action to it, so long as you do that. So with this, I usually give out line because I don't want it to drop all the way down. So I loosen up my drag just a little bit. And I put 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 feet of line, 2, 4, 6, 8, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 30, 2, 4, 6, 8, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So that's about 80 feet of line. So using my calculation, it should be close to, look at that angle. So that's definitely not 45, because I am going about 2.3 miles per hour. So it's close to 60. So instead of putting out 70, I put about 80 feet of line. So it should be close to 50, anywhere from 40 to 50. So trout typically likes water temperature anywhere between 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So obviously during summer months, when the water temperature is higher on the surface, they're going to be much deeper. And also trout, they're migrating. They're always moving around. They can go upriver that way, but when it's warmer, they like to go deeper, obviously, because the deeper water is colder. So I'm going to do the same thing with my shorter line, shorter rod, I mean. So this one is also about 2 feet, probably a little less, but this is not an exact science. I'm just trying to have fun and catch fish. So about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Probably gonna do about 85-ish, just because this is not exactly 2 feet. It's a little shorter. So those are the kind of things that adjustments that I make. Then I make sure there's enough drag so that I can hear it. And this is how I fish.